Paul. Yeah, I was just reading this crimes involving personal property. Yeah. There is what's known as larceny. It's the felonious taking and carrying away of someone else's personal property. There's several necessary parts to this offense, which is either a felony or a misdemeanor, depending on the value of the property stolen. Now, when I was reading this, there's what's known as larceny can be the result of a trick or a fraud. And when you think of a trick or a fraud, let's say you issue a protection order that is a fraudulent protection order where there's a certain amount of trickery involved in it. Now, you issued a protection order in 2011 where there was a fraud. There were some forgeries, some counterfeit instruments, some false statements. There was an intent to misrepresent who I am so as to defraud me of my inheritances or whatever other property I might have. Now, I know you're elected to office, and it could be that some lobbyists might have the teeth, the nerve endings actually in the gums of teeth. You know, a tooth in and of itself doesn't have a lot of nerve endings, but there are nerve endings in the gums of those that have teeth. Now, I'm just going to want to know what nerve endings every lobbyist has in their mouths, in their gums. And then I'd like to know if they've been eating through any animal mouths. It seemed to me that during the static, the only way to actually rid yourself of the knowledge of any crimes was to eat yourself on an animal and then crap your memories out the ass of an animal. Could you get me every animal that lawsuits and liabilities, lobbyists, and oaths have ever eaten through, and then if they ever defecated through the asshole of an animal? Now, when you really think about how do you put nerve endings of a person's mouth, the nerve endings in the gums of a person's mouth on the nerve endings of an animal so that you would be chewing food through their mouth or they would be chewing through your mouth. It's one of these where the gums, the nerve endings in the gums might be directly connected to the anus of an animal. Now, as much as I had mentioned before, but I think it's worth mentioning now. Let's say you were using some sort of fraud or trickery to commit the crime of larceny, and you thought, well, we'll just make a show. We'll issue a protection order where there's no petitioner signature. There's forgeries. Yes. The lines, all the boxes aren't marked. It's not filled out the way that it should be. And then I go through every judge and justice, every police officer, every sheriff, those elected and appointed to office that have any knowledge of the crimes that they've been involved in. And I look at their pets, but I look at the nerve endings of the gums of the teeth of their pets and the nerve endings of the gums of themselves. And then if I find any memory where they had eaten through their pet or their pet had eaten through their mouth, then I would begin to want to know, did they crap through their pet or did the pet crap through them? Now, when you're involved, why would you want? You know, when you use trick and fraud to commit the crime of larceny, And I have documented that I have the constitutional right to have my sons. I just wanted to make sure I get all the nerve endings of every animal and every lawsuit and liability.